If you're ever sentenced to a prison term in Germany, you can rest assured that you are allowed to escape, because breaking out of prison is legal. At least, that's the claim that's often repeated on the internet, and as we know, you shouldn't believe everything you hear on the internet. As it turns out, this claim is technically true, and not just in Germany, but in a few other countries as well, including Austria and Switzerland. However, there is a catch, and in reality, it would be a bad idea to try to break out of a German prison. What is absolutely true is that there is no such crime as escaping prison. And this is down to the idea that the desire for freedom is a fundamental human instinct. You can't make that punishable any more than you can make breathing punishable. The Constitutio Criminalis Carolina, which came into effect in 1532, is widely regarded to be the first criminal code for the Holy Roman Empire, and it makes no mention of any punishment for escaping prison. Apparently, it was common for Roman law to apply in these circumstances, but then the sentences were very mild. By the 19th century, Germany had pretty much decided that this shouldn't be punished at all, and this is the tradition that continues to this day. So long as nobody comes to harm, there's nothing morally objectionable about acting on an impulse to be free. So, how can it be made illegal? Well, quite. But there is one small detail that I deliberately included and you might have missed if you weren't paying attention. There is nothing morally objectionable about this, so long as nobody comes to harm. And there is the catch, because while there is no such crime as escaping from prison, it is nearly impossible to escape without breaking some other law. If you dig a tunnel or saw through the bars, that's destruction of property. If you promise a guard money to help you escape, that's bribery. If you punch a guard, that's bodily harm. If you're still wearing your prison uniform when you escape, that's theft. Back in December 2022, one prisoner threatened two guards with an improvised weapon and forced them to unlock several doors before he was eventually overpowered. And although he couldn't be charged with the non-existent crime of attempting to escape prison, the list of crimes he did commit was impressively long. Resistance to enforcement officials, assault of enforcement officials, hostage-taking, coercion, making threats, all very illegal. And yes, you may commit those crimes because you're motivated by your natural desire to be free. Right, but that still doesn't give you the right to commit crimes. You still have the capacity for rational thought. Put it another way, it is perfectly understandable for you to make a run for it if you notice that somebody has left a door open. That is just instinct kicking in. But bribing a guard to leave a door open for you, that is a deliberate choice that you made. Also, you probably shouldn't get yourself an accomplice, because while it's not technically illegal for you to break out of prison yourself, it is illegal to help somebody else escape. So if you have a friend waiting for you with a getaway car, that friend can be convicted of a crime and sentenced to up to 3 years in prison. But there has been at least one case of a prisoner who managed to escape without committing any crimes. However, this is a slightly different case because at the time he was in preventative custody. This can be added to the end of a prison sentence in certain cases, and the aim here is not to punish somebody for a crime that's already been done, but rather to prevent them from committing further crimes, and often also to help with their rehabilitation. As such, detainees are not required to wear prison uniforms, and they often also qualify for what is essentially a form of day release, although they do have to be accompanied by members of prison staff. And one such detainee was on day release when he simply gave the officers the slip. It was that simple. They saw him go into a public toilet. They didn't see him come out again. No threats, no physical injury, no vandalism, not even theft. But that doesn't mean you can do this and not expect consequences, because even if you do manage to escape prison legally, you can obviously still be tracked down, arrested, and made to serve the rest of your sentence. You can also expect some loss of privileges, because while you can't be charged with a new crime, the prison can take steps to minimize the risk of you trying a stunt like that again. And that may involve, for example, a reduction of your visiting rights. And you can definitely say goodbye to your chances of early release. Incidentally, a similar logic is applied to being arrested. Evading arrest isn't illegal just so long as you don't break any laws doing it. Don't, for example, drive at twice the speed limit the wrong way down a one-way street just to get away from the police. Resisting arrest, though, is illegal. This involves the use of violence or threats of violence against a law enforcement official. Just pushing a police officer aside as you make a break for it could count as resisting arrest. That said, if you can convince the court that you genuinely believed the arrest was illegal for some reason, you can have your sentence reduced. Under certain circumstances, you can even be acquitted. You do have to make a very good case, though, that you had good reason to believe that something was wrong and that resorting to violence was your only reasonable course of action. After all, you need to be allowed to defend yourself against people you believe are rogue police officers or kidnappers posing as police officers. But the main thing to remember from this video is, if you ever do find yourself in a German prison, you can, in theory, escape perfectly legally. But it won't help you if you do. Thank you for watching, and if you enjoyed this video, here's another one that you'll probably like.